Hey there, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and if you're new here, this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for college instructors or even high school teachers. So if that interests you, go ahead and subscribe below. But today we're focusing on an example of how I create an instruction sheet for a major project in my class. So if you're new to teaching and you're not sure how to do this, I do have resources below that can help that tie into this topic or just ideas for classroom assignments in general. But today I'm going to take you behind the scenes. You can look at my screen and I'm going to show you top to bottom what do I include in my instruction sheets. For some context, this is the last paper that my students turn in their freshman composition course. So it's a course devoted to having them practice their academic research skill, their academic writing skills. And so it's the final paper, argumentative research paper, 25% of their grade. So that's the first thing I include here is the name of the paper and how much it is worth thinking about the overall grade. And then underneath it, I have the primary goal. And this can be really helpful for assignments to give students a sense of, well, why am I doing this? Well, in this case, it's to demonstrate their writing and research skills by writing a research paper with a strong and well-supported argumentative thesis, right? So what's the goal here? Demonstrate writing and research skills. And after that, I have what are you required to do to complete this project. So first, this is basically an overall summary of what the assignment is, right? So it's going to be a 7 to 9 page research paper in MLA where they research and write about a topic that interests them. Okay, so they have to pick one topic to write about. They have to write an argumentative paper on that topic with a specific audience in mind, and they get to choose the audience. Okay, it has to be a different topic than Unit 1 and 2. Does not have to include any primary research, which they had to do in Unit 2, though they're free to include some if they want to. Okay, again, it's designed to showcase all they've been learning about writing and research in the course. They have more independence when completing the project, but they can ask any questions in class or during my office hours if they're unsure about any part of their writing process. So it's kind of a quick summary of what's going on in this activity, and again, what's kind of the goal of it for thinking of the class as a whole. And after that, what do they need to do to complete the project? Since I'm dealing with freshmen here, I like having literally a list. Like here's the exact steps of doing this project. You're going to pick a topic. You're going to pick the audience. You're going to start brainstorming ideas and creating your argumentative thesis, right? And you'll turn in that thesis for feedback to ensure it's an argument and it's a thesis, right? And it's something that it can actually write 7 or 9 pages about. Okay, they'll outline the paper and submit that for feedback as well. Okay, they have to find 3 to 5 credible sources to cite in their paper or paraphrase. And so 3 of the sources have to be academic and the other ones can just be credible. Okay, and I have more about those requirements in below. And I remind them again, we're doing MLA. So once they have all that, they start drafting their paper. They'll work on that in class and homework. They'll revise and edit their drafts. They'll peer assess a classmate's draft. They'll self-assess their own paper. They'll revise and edit with that feedback from themselves and from their partner. Okay? If they want to, they can do the extra credit option because it's due at the same time as the project. In this case, the final paper was also presented. So you have to create a visual presentation to use when they're presenting it during the last week of class. Okay? And I gave them a suggestion using Canva because it's so easy to create infographics or slides using it. And then they'll present that presentation to their classmates. So obviously these two wouldn't actually occur for any of my other assignments, but it is included in this final one because of how this assignment was designed. Now, as I said, I have here specifically about the research requirements. So at least 3 credible sources in their paper or text, and all of these would come from academic sources if they only use 3. Okay? But if they wanted to use more sources, then they can just do any academic or credible source that they find anywhere, websites, magazines, books, etc. That's directly quote and paraphrase. Okay? And then all sources must be included in the work cited using MLA. So just kind of get a refresher of exactly what's needed, not just the sources, but directly quoting and paraphrasing because they're practicing both in this class. Then I have a kind of an overview of what are they turning in for this unit. They're turning in their thesis for feedback, their outline for feedback, and then obviously their actual paper, and their peer assessment and self-assessment. The extra credit, I do offer extra credit for all major projects in my classes. And so in this case, it's up to 5 points that they can be earned if they create an abstract for their paper. So sometimes I do having an infographic or having some kind of narrative about their process of writing. But in this case, it's writing the abstract to make it an even stronger argumentative paper example of that genre. So 100 to 300 words, okay? It does not count towards their paper length. It's something that they do additionally that they would put to the top of their paper. And I give them examples of that when we're looking over and reading articles in class, as well as my own example that I created for them. Okay, so that's their extra credit option in this case. Then I have the due dates, right? So when is everything due? The paper and the extra credit were due on this day. And I usually do by midnight through Canvas. And then in this case, since there was a visual presentation, that was due slightly later because they had more time in order to present the following week. And so that one I gave a noon deadline because they had class in the afternoon. And then finally, I have here the submission format. So in my case, I like them to be submitted as Word docs or PDF. Okay, and Google Docs can be fine, but they have to be really sure that I can access them when I open the link, because I really hate when I get a Google Doc and I have to request access. So I tell them, you know what, it'd be easiest if you just do a Word doc or PDF. But if you're super confident in your Google Doc usage, you can do it that way as well. And then the visual presentation in this case would be a PDF. One thing I do recommend is having a grade breakdown, especially if you're doing a unit project like this one. So in this case, 85% of the grade came from the paper, 15 from the outline, peer assessment, and self-assessment. And then I kind of make clear that the presentation is its own separate assignment. It's 5% of the overall grade. And so I give a different assignment sheet for that one to make it really clear how that works. Okay, so I show here, 100% comes from the paper and then the peer assessment, self-assessment, and outline. At the end here, I do have grading expectations just to give them a sense of, okay, what am I looking for when I'm grading? And so for the paper, right, do they have 3 to 5 credible resources, at least 3 being academic? Do they directly quote and paraphrase from them? Do they have a works cited that's an MLA? Is it at least 7 full pages and formatted properly? Okay. Do they begin and end the paper in a way that really makes sense for the target audience that they've chosen? Do they have strong paragraphs that flow well from one another? Do their citations flow well in the paper? Do they clearly convey their information to their reader? Okay. And obviously, very few to no spelling or grammar mistakes. So that's for the paper. And then for the peer and self-assessments, do they answer each question, right, to the best of their ability? Are they giving helpful and respectful feedback to themselves and their peer? Are they completing it on time so that they themselves and their peers can revise before the assignment is due? And then for the thesis drafting outline, very simple, right? Is a thesis argumentative? Does it include their main topic and their argument and a hint to why their argument matters? And does the outline show their thoughtfulness and effort put into making sure that they have an outline for a paper that will, reach 7 to 9 pages, that will have strong arguments in it? And so I have kind of that overview of how I grade their different assignments. And then in this case, I also used a rubric because of how my university was working on this assessment. And so I have here for the rubric, the learning outcomes that we've already gone over in prior units and how much they're each worth towards the overall grade. And I do shift the rubric points into a letter grade. I have a video on how I do that math. Very simple, but if you don't know how to do it, it can be complicated to try to figure out. So I have a video on that. I also have a video on why I don't really like rubrics, and I'll link that below as well. But for this course, I did have them. And so I do include it in written form on Canvas because it does have that function. And so usually I do have pretty long assignment sheets. Some have been longer. This one, it has, a good amount of sections of what to include. And again, because I have freshmen, I have this really detailed step-by-step, perhaps not needed in upper level courses, but I do think it's helpful when they're new to college assignments. I do bold things every once in a while to really make sure that attention is being paid to those aspects of the assignment sheet as well. If you found this video helpful, please do click like. It really helps me out. And again, subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any future tips. I have playlists and links to other videos below that might interest you that connect to this particular topic.